Yeah, it's like jumping, but we're anticipating the green moon. So like earlier, like we were talking about on Fartcoin, I looked on the 10 minute and I saw that that move already happened. It broke the 10, it pulled back and went back up. So on River, so I went to the 30 minute of Fartcoin and that's where I came up with that entry. So River right now, the 30 minute has crossed the 10. But I would be hesitant just the way River is. I mean, I got to backtrack. I need to go before we even talk about along here. Let's look and see what our 4 hour looks like. So the 4 hour, we do have a green moon, but this is an old green moon. Oh, dang it. See, that green moon was down here on the 4 hour. But I mean, we still are on a green moon. Let's go to the 1 hour. So the 1 hour is blue and pointed down. So right now, it is, we are starting to get some color here, but we're not even getting in the shaded pink. And we're pointed down. Let's go to the 15. So I'm not really excited about this trade on River just yet. Just because we don't have our 15 minute, 1 hour, and 4 hour all working together. But what we can do is backtrack. What was your entry that you got out of?
Yeah, I have to. I just got to the
On
shop.
River?
I just got to the shop. I'm setting up right now, pulling out my computer and stuff. Um, so on
Okay.
this is kind of like totally different, but so on where you have the volume or the moon indicators, right? This is something that like I feel like I'm picking up on that's totally off
Yeah.
topic, but where like on the blue moon, see how it hits the blue and then does that spike, like it makes like a point, like like go back out a little bit so it's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So every time I see one of the like the blue moon hits with that spike, it's like a super drop almost every single time. Have you noticed that? Does that mean anything to you? Or am I just looking at something that doesn't mean anything? And if you go back
No,
right,
no. I mean, yeah. I mean,
see where
it,
you're
it
at on the double top, bam, it does that little like
it's
dunce
you're not
cap.
always going to get a big drop. See,
Okay. So like everywhere there's a
so
dunce cap, there's a major
if
drop.
you're talking about, I mean, and I see what you're saying. You see that
Uh-huh.
hook, so you
Yeah.
can go short.
Right.
But right now, like the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and the 15 are showing mixed
Mhm.
signals. And I mean, that system works great to go short or long.
Mhm.
So even though you see that blue hook that you're talking about, in
Yeah.
the event we've got a 4 hour, 1 hour, and 15 minute green moons, you may get a slight pullback, but you got to be quick because you get eaten up real quick. Because when a higher
Yeah.
time frame and that system is strong, and say
Mhm.
the 15, 1 hour, 4 hour, like Fartcoin, we got in that trade. If you saw that blue hook and come down, it dropped down a little bit, but it's got a full head of steam and climbing up. So that would have got you in trouble. So
Gotcha.
that's really not a strategy. We got to focus on the three trades, the
Mhm.
10 minute, the 30 minute, the 45, and the possibly the 3 hour.
Gotcha.
Because what I mean on that is if we're going to enter on the 10 minute, you would see that blue hook coming down like Fartcoin
Mhm.
on the 10 minute. You see that blue hook coming down, but since everything was strong, like we were looking to enter long on that. So
Right.
that was just a pullback below the 10-minute or the 10 line.
Mm-hmm.
And then I entered on that hook going down at 2016 because I knew the higher time frames were so strong. So just going off that blue hook like an arrow going down, if you're going to short, you got to have everything working in your favor.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I wasn't just saying like just see the hook and jump in. Like it's something I picked up on. I'm like every time it hooks like that, there's some kind of drastic move. I didn't know if that was like not like I know it's not part of the strategy per se or whatever, but it just seems like something I just keep seeing over and over and over again.
And that could change with market conditions.
All right, so I'm in my
right.
I'm in my next account now. So how do I find my trade? Let's see.
You're going to go to order history. You're going to go on the bottom, and you'll have positions, open orders, and then you'll have order history. Click on order history, and then you should be able to go through. And then when you got the order history, it'll pull up your entry price, close price, all that.
I think my mouse just died. Today's not my day. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got you. Mm-hmm. There we go. All right, so now
And I mean, just to take a look, I'm gonna pull up BTC, and we're gonna look at the 4 hour, 1 hour, and 15. So we've got a current green moon. Oh, the 4 room here, but I mean, we crossed the 10 on 1 hour, and then we came down, came up, still on a green moon. Let's go to the 15-minute. 15-minute is looking like it's gonna possible turn up right now because we're hooking up. Let's see what it did on the 10-minute. Pretty sure the 10-minute moves already happened, but yeah, it's been up and down on a 10-minute, but it looks like it just broke the 10 line again. It's on a blue moon and going to be going back up. Are you guys? So
what time frame are you on there?
Now I'm on the 30-minute. I mean, I went through the 4 hour, the 1 hour, to 15, and it really, I'm not trading Bitcoin today, but what I'm just looking at like the overall market conditions. Like if you were going to be trading, say, an XRP, Solana, Doge, something that's going to run hand in hand with Bitcoin, I like to run through and verify what I'm seeing on those coins, and I'll just do a quick run through on Bitcoin. So, like market conditions right now, like on Bitcoin, looking at the 4 hour, 1 hour, 15-minute, it's in an upward trend, and that's where we're sitting at right now. So, what that tells me is coins that are going to run hand in hand with really what Bitcoin's doing. We're in a good spot in an upward trend for the time being.
Gotcha. And that's with the metric of Bitcoin's got to be going up, and I'm assuming with the volume is what you're comparing it to the other coins, or you have specific.
It doesn't have to.
Okay.
Right, and River kind of runs on its own thing, but I'll tell you what, Fartcoin runs parallel with whatever Bitcoin's doing. If Bitcoin's dropping, you still have to watch. Bitcoin's not going to drive the ship and tell you exactly what's going on, but it is good to see if whether you're looking to go long or short, if you're trading a coin that follows Bitcoin, to know what the trend is on the day, the next 4 hours, what it's looking like.
Gotcha. So I have.
But what was your? Did you find your order history and what your entry was on River?
It says futures transactions. Is that where I'm supposed to be? Does that sound right?
No, on the bottom of your Bitnik screen, where you would have an open trade, you should have positions, open orders, and order history.
Okay, let me get out of here.
It'd be the third line from the left, and you would go to order history, and that'll pull up all the coins that all the trades that you had going on.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to find pull up that tab?
Yeah, I'm trying to now. It's I'm in whatchamacallit. I just got to the order, like as if I was going to put in a trade or whatever. Now I'm trying to go to the coin.
Well, yeah, it should have positions, open orders, order history, position history, trade history.
Yeah, see, I don't see any of that. So go to River. All right, so I'm in River, right?
Where that line item is on the bottom of your Bitnik screen. If you had an open trade.
Oh shit! Yeah. My bad. I see what you're talking about now. Yeah, I have an open XRP trade. I got you. So open order history. Got you.
Yeah, positions, open orders, order history. Yeah.
Yep. So now, okay. So
yeah, go to click on order history, and then you'll be able to pull that up, and it'll show.
Yeah, I got it now. So the trade was on.
I mean, you can scroll through.
Yeah, so the trade was on 425.
And then
go ahead.
The one that says yeah, you'll have a little there'll be like a arrow with 3 circles around it, and if it was on 421, so you're going to click on that, and that'll show you entry price, closing price, everything.
Yeah, so there's like a line that goes straight across. It says River USDT 421. I opened along at 6. Looks like 6.060. For the average price, filled one. This is 1.01 River or whatever, and then it closed like it says TP. It closed with profit. It says profit and loss 244.81. That's when it closed the long. So then that's at 10. That was at 10x leverage, and then I did your 33. That's my lucky number. That's my girl's number too. But anyways, so I did. It was after hearing you on live or whatever. So I did 33x. I opened the long at 6.38 with 156 river or whatever, and then it took me out at 156.73 with a looks like 9.64 P&L. But what happened was, what I did was I was in the trade.
So your entry was at 638.
Yeah. Yeah, open the long at 638. Yep.
Okay.
And it
So
filled.
I got that pulled up. All right. So I got that pulled up on the screen.
Yeah, this was at like
You guys can see all that, but anyway, we're at
it's 1:26 in the morning Eastern.
for whatever reason it's not letting me show that far side. But anyway, the red line is at 638. And what was the date and time?
It was on the 25th at 1:25 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Hang on.
I was going off a post. I was going off of a post. Like somebody had posted. So I was like, all right, let me see if I can do this on my own. Let me
So
what? No, I didn't post. No, somebody else posted it. And I looked at it and I was like, all right, I'm going to take a look at this. And then I did like the moon things. I did the 4 to the 1 and all that. So I felt confident. So then I went to go put the trade in and I felt pretty confident. And then as I'm watching it move, I was like, oh shit, here we go. I was like, this thing's running. So it's going to go past my 33. Let me try to pull this up. And that's when I started freaking out and like panicking because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And next thing you know, I hear this blue, blue. I was like, what? Oh, and it like took me out. Like somehow, I guess it looked like I took the one trade and turned it into two, kind of like the way that I moved the take profit. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's how I felt. You know. Mhm. 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 Right. Mhm. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ah, gotcha. Mhm. Ah, gotcha. If I'm going to be fully transparent with some Windex on it and everything, I did, that was my first one all on my own, and I was not confident in what the hell I was doing, and I just was kind of I was kind of like just I was looking at my notes and I was going back and forth and I was getting
Well,
excited.
and at 33x on river, man, that's pretty high leverage.
That was your fault, Lucas. That was your fault. Just kidding. Because you said
If you're
33
not
the other
confident
night.
in what you're doing on the trade.
No, I'm playing. I'm playing. No, because when you were like 33, I was like, yeah, that's my number. That's my number. Lucas
I
said
mean,
it
I
too.
trade river at 5 or 10x. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. No, I'm just messing.
Farcoin is 33x.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. So no, originally I went in at 10, and that's when I was like, nah, fuck it. I was like 33 is good luck. So that's how I got in the second trade or whatever. But yeah, that's how I started. I started following the rules. Mm-hmm.
So I want it. So I want it. You did a good trade and it came out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, VC.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. Right.
So going
Mhm.
going off strictly off the I'm looking at your entry right now, and I got the screen pulled up on a. Yeah, I got it. I got it pulled up on a screen right now, and honestly, if you would have posted, say, hey, what do you think? I probably it did make a move and it worked out,
Mhm.
but using our strategy,
Mhm.
it like on the 10 minute, it was on its way up to, and it barely broke the 10, and then we'll go to the 30 minute. So one thing we could say is, yeah,
Yep.
and there like the what we've been teaching. What we've been teaching the 30 minute, the 10 minute, the 30 minute, and 45. That really wouldn't have went with our strategy. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Like
it
I
worked
knew.
out for you, but
Yeah.
like
Like I knew I wasn't
it
following the
wasn't a guarantee, and
strategy.
it wasn't following the system. Yeah,
Like I knew I was okay. So I'm like looking at my indicators, and I was like, all right, I'm feeling a little comfy. And then I just my gut, I was just like, oh shit, this looks like I think the indicators are all here. Let me jump in this shit real quick, just a little bit, and see what happens. So it all just none of it was intended. It was just supposed to be research to see if I could feel comfortable doing it. And then my emotion took over, and I said, fuck it, let's roll. I was like, let's just do it. And that's what I have to control. That's what I have to control because I know that's my weakness is the fuck it, let's let it ride. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. Mhm. Hmm. Or at least minimize your loss, right? I mean, either way, it's a win-win. Mhm. Mhm. Gotcha. Yeah. Mhm. Right. $638, I believe.
638.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it had to be. I mean, on my screen, it's 12 a.m. I've got it. I've
Yeah, I
got
was
it
going
pulled up on the screen on the 30-minute on our screen right now on TikTok.
yeah, mine was, one I think it was 1:30.
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah, it was, like, in the morning, like, I'm a night owl, so
Midnight. That's roughly. It has to be on my time. Uh, I
yeah,
mean
I'm
that's
Eastern,
where
so
the price. If that was his entry, that's where it was at. You know what I mean? I'm on the 10-minute right now, pulled on the screen. I got the green and red. Yeah, I've got the green and red line crisscrossed. Yeah. So let's pull this up. Yep. And I'm pulling up the Yep. Right there. Let me do a couple things on here. You got it. Yep. I can make those bigger so we can see them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm on a 10-minute right now. Yep. Yep. So that's why I was kind of looking at like the 30.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got a green moon right now.
Mhm.
10-minute green moon at the moment. Yeah. Yeah, it's 10-minute right now.
Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
But that was after his entry. That was after his entry that it barely broke it.
Okay, so let me give you this part. So this is where, in my mind, I said, so I'm watching like the market go up and down, and it was wicking down, right? So I'm like, okay, it looks like I'm getting ready to get into this trade, and I knew it was going to take me a little time to figure it out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to set my stop loss at the lowest wick, right? So I was like, boom, let me see where that number's at. Then I adjusted my numbers from there, assuming that while I was figuring it out, I wasn't going to get wicked out, right? Because I that's how this all started. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's what I did. Uh, yeah, nah, I was afraid that I wasn't going to get in if I did that, which I wouldn't. Gotcha. Hmm. 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 Uh, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good perspective to have. Yeah. Right. Right. Hmm. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Mhm. Hmm. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Mhm. Right. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Not all winds are the same is what you're saying. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Hang on. I'm his entry. Yep. Hang on. What are you talking about? Yeah. Yeah, right here. Oh, right here. So there to there. Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
5% move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, hang on. I'm having an issue. I'm measuring on a different screen.
Mm-hmm.
11.33%. 11.33 on the 10-minute that move up from the lowest point. Yep. Oh, from his entry, how high it went up? Yeah.
Mhm. 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 From what? From where? From the bottom? Oh, from the, okay, I got, right. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. 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 Right. Mhm. Oh, so you're gonna put as if you didn't really enter at the three. I got you. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Right, right, right. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. So like I'm on what I believe I'm on BitNex and that indicator where you pull up and down the profit and loss. So the stop loss, right? If I put the entry line for that tool or whatever, right at the entry at 669, then as I pull it down, like the percentage, you're saying go down how far? You said 3%? Well, no, no, I'm saying like I'm trying to like actually do it right now. So if I pull it down to what I believe you're saying is we'll call it 3.09, that puts me at a $6.47 takeout, correct? Am I hearing that right? Okay, 649 is where I'd get booted. And then and if I'm going to set my what's it called to take profit or whatever, then I move that square up just like I did with that. But then, yeah. Hmm. 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 Yeah. See, this is the part. This is where it gets confusing. Like I'm trying to like. What? Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, gotcha. Yep. Yeah, that's where I just was in BitNext or whatever. It looks exactly like that. Oh. Hmm. Mhm. It would be mhm. Yeah. 3 and 5, 4? Mhm, 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 mm, mhm, mhm. Yep. That's where I just was on when even when I was on, what you call it, Bitnex. It looked just like that. Okay, okay. Mhm, yeah, mhm, mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What, so are you on TradingView or BitNext right now? Oh fuck. Okay. Yeah, but I'm like trying to. I'm going like I have you on the iPad and I have the computer pulled up and I'm trying to go back and forth to now I'm on BitNext on the computer. Okay, gotcha. That I know how to do. I got that part. Okay. Yeah, I got the. Yep, I got that set up. Mm-hmm. Yep. What did you put? What did you have for your start at 6:42? Yeah, I fucked that up. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Got you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. 3, 2. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Ah, okay, I got you. So on that indicator, it's got the two squares and the circle. So you'll pull down the 2.5% with the square. Then once you have that, so you know where it's at, then you pull the circle down, and that becomes your middle point, middle ground. Am I hearing you correctly? Right. Okay, got you. Got you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. Got you. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ah. Mhm. Yeah, see, that's the part that was jamming me up. I'm thinking like where you just slid back and forth was what I was like my leverage, not how much I'm pulling from the bag. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking when I slide this over with the percentage, that was like where I was going with the leverage. That's where I kept getting it. Right. Hmm. Gotcha. I'm just going to call that the bag box. The bag box. Gotcha. Gotcha. Hmm. 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 Right. I got you. So that's like just a way to check just to make sure. Got you. Hmm. 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 So, so are you saying you're putting it like you're like you're adding it in your head to 3% you already pulled back in the beginning, and that's how you're figuring your stop loss because you already put that in there. So if you put in a 20% right now, you'd really be putting in like a 23, right? No. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. So like one, okay, I got you. One has nothing to do with the other. They're totally different steps. Gotcha. Gotcha. Right. So that's the greedy pullback. I got you. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you so far. but what you said prior to that, that's what confused me. You said something about you wanted to put your stop loss at this, but because we already did something, you're gonna not make it as much. That's what confused me. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, that's okay. Now it clicks. That's that. All right, gotcha. That. Oh wow. Okay. Mm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. To be more efficient. So it's better to be efficient than it is to just do a whole bunch of trades. I got you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's what we were talking about the other night on. Well, I wasn't. I was listening. They were saying like as you move it up, eventually you'll get to where you got in at. So who gives a shit where you get stomped out at? You can still keep taking your profit or whatever, keep sliding that up. Because worst case, if it crashes, you break even. So that all right, yeah, that clicks now. I got you. Right. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Right. Mhm. 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 Right. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. Mhm. Right. Mhm. Right. Ah, yeah, like squeezing the balloon from one way to yeah. Yeah, so you're saying like you're keeping yourself like safe and padded on the fall down, but you still know you're still gonna hit your ups where you make money, and you're setting that at 30%. So as long as your stop loss, it's yeah, I got you. It keeps the numbers within because you know you're gonna. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. That just that just totally made it click. Right. And that's a mindset that's hard to get into. Right. Yeah. How to, yeah, the strategy is just to watch it run up, wait for this, and you're going to make money because it's going to go up. It's all about the increase. Ah, I got you. Huh. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 Because everybody's talking about where it's going to go, how it's going to run, but nobody's talking about how everybody's getting beat on the back end. I got you. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Like if we started with the same bag and this and that, we did the same trades, like oh yeah, oh yeah, we both lost the same trades, but wouldn't have lost the same money because of our entry. I got you. Mm-hmm. I got you. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Exactly. Hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to work on my mindset. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because that gives you, if you limit, well, the other way to look at it is if you limit the losses, then that gives you more to get in, a bigger bag to be, or to last you longer, the longevity of your bag. Huh. Yeah, that's a total different mentality. It never clicked. Didn't even think about.
Yeah, that's what. So at the end of the day, it's everyone's in trading 101. What is the entire lesson about? How to find a winning trade, how to
Mm-hmm.
play support and resistance, how to head and shoulder, all this shit, right? But the reality is finding the winning trade is not the game that we're playing, right? The game that the way to make money in trading is to figure out the very simple thing of how to avoid the 8 out of 10 bad trades.
Mm-hmm.
The winning trades are easy. Those are going to happen because law of average. If you went
Right.
into a trade and every time it went down on a dip and you bought it, right, without any fucking concept of trading, if every time there was a giant dip, right, let's just say you do this, right? Every time the 4 hour RSI hits the bottom and starts to head up, and you buy
Mm-hmm.
into a fucking trade, and you just ride the 4 hour to the top and you sell. If you did that every fucking time, you will win 4 out of 10 trades. Now, it'll depend on your leverage, it'll depend on your stop loss, right? On how that works out. In
Mm-hmm.
reality, it might come back to where when you do that, you end up winning 2 out of 10, right? And then if you go in there and you say, okay, just by luck, just by the law of average, just by the fucking luck of the draw, I will
Mm-hmm.
get 2 huge trades if I just bought the bottom of the 4 hour heading up. That's the easy part. It's like
Mm-hmm.
flipping a coin. It's going to be heads or it's going to be tails. It's going to do one thing, right? It's either up or fucking down, right?
Right.
By luck, it will go your way 2 out of 10 times, maybe three, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you know that, now you go, okay, well, I'm not worried about I'm not worried about the universal law of fucking law of average. What I need to do is I got to figure out how not to be in those fucking 8 losses or 7 losses or 5 losses. You know what I'm saying? The wins are
Yeah.
guaranteed. It's the losses that hurt. Right? If I win 100% on 5 wins and I lose 100% on 5 losses, I'm dead fucking even. Was winning the problem? No. The losing's the problem. If you just get rid of half of your losses, those are gains. Those are wins.
Yeah.
And if you cut your losses in half on the other 50%, it's like you take losses and you went from 100% down to 25. That's 75% of losses that you eliminated. That money, if you lost $1,000 every week and you got that down to $250, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, $750 difference.
Yeah. And it makes it where when you do winning trades, they don't have to try to cover, so much money that was lost because you've cleaned that up. You've got rid of your losses side.
I got you.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
You're working,
Yeah.
You're working in the direction of better entries, more gains, right? If you get a better entry, right? Think about this. If you normally enter and it pulls back 30%, right? Our target is 30%. So on $1,000, that's an average pullback of $300 before it goes the other way, right? And you start incorporating a 30% pullback. So now every time you get into a trade, it runs to where your normal entry would have been, which would have been 30%. So without the coin actually going up any further from where you thought it was going to go up, it just went back to where you thought it was going to go. You've already hit your target.
Right.
Right? You see, so that's the basis of understanding that what we're learning here is not winning trades, it's learning not to lose trades. You got to eliminate 80% of your losses. 75% of your losses has to go away. Don't worry about fucking winning. Worry about fixing the losses. That's what nobody teaches. Everyone else teaches trading 101, winning, right?
Yeah.
90% of people can't do that.
Right.
So at this point, especially in the last 5 years, 6 years of crypto, where there's 100,000 new trading gurus that have listened to all the charting people in the world, teaching you about Richard Wycliffe, teaching you about fucking impulse candles, teaching you about all this shit with all this new technology, with all this new fucking indicators, and everyone is still losing 90 fucking percent. Maybe the game you're playing isn't the game you should be playing.
Right.
That's the difference. You start playing the other game of like, all right, fuck winning. I'm just going to make sure my losses are minimal and I remove 75% of my loss.
Yeah, that allows you, if you're going to take a beating, it allows you to take it longer than everybody else. Theoretically, you have the same bag.
Yeah. I mean, if everyone's losing $50 on a trade and you're losing 10, right? At the end of it, in 10 trades, they're down 500, you're down 100. And then the trades go the right way, and on every trade, the 5 trades, you make $100 on your upside, right? Now you're turning around, it's like, oh, I lost, $100 on my losses, but I made 500 on my wins.
Yeah.
While everyone else is breaking even. That's what people don't understand. It's the losses that matter.
So where you're at, right? Where it's at right now on River, right? You didn't get taken out yet, did you?
What happened?
Like where your trade is right now, right? Is this live?
Yeah.
All right. So see how far that dipped down? That didn't touch your 3%. Your 3% is still, I can't see what the number is.
So if you were doing your 3% pullback, right? So right here, you would have an entry point right here. See? So right now, you'd be in a trade, right? And let's say you're doing a 10x, right? So which means that you have a 20% stop loss.
No. Hold on. What I'm talking about is, okay, see where that the red line came down and wicked, what
Yeah,
like
this,
pretend you didn't just do anything, would that have taken us out right there?
no, because the bottom of the red here is your 20%. It would be right here. Remember, if you're doing a 10x, right?
Right.
And you entered here at 650, like your limit order. Let's say if you would have set this limit order, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would have hit your limit order. But now you're doing a 20x would be 2% pullback, which would be here.
Mm-hmm.
So this trade played out just like, so now here you are, you're in at 650. The pullback on your normal 20% is 637. So if you set that
Mm-hmm.
limit order, you'd be in the trade right now,
Right.
and you'd still have a stop loss of 637.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like go back.
Mm-hmm.
Like see, like the where it's the first green, that's like the real trade that you just put in, right?
Up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
That's where you
basically,
yeah.
let's say, like,
Okay.
you're deciding to make your trade here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm showing you what the difference is. And you said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, normally when I decide to make a trade, it has a pullback of 3%, which would be here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this played out just like we were talking about.
Yeah, like it's so so did it take you out with the stop loss then?
Yeah, because it's not a real trade. I put my stop loss up here.
Uh, okay, got you. That's what I was questioning because I'm like, the way that thing went down, it looks like it touched
Yeah.
the
So
lines.
this
It
is
would have
here,
gone
right?
out.
So let's say that at that time, 668, 667, you're just you would decide to make a trade, right? You enter that trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now your pullback that you protecting your trade would have been pulling back from this level and saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put a 2.5% pullback, which is here. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
667 where I was, I make the decision to go to 650. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now that gives me at that point a 20% pullback, which is 2%. It changes my stop loss to here, right? So the original entry that we did without
Mm-hmm.
putting the extra 2.5% got stopped out, just like we
Yeah,
basically.
so that was my question.
Yeah. That was your original trade. If you made that
Gotcha.
trade, you lost.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you add the fact that you have a 5% pullback and we did an average, we're in the trade currently. We haven't lost that yet because it has to go down to here to lose.
Got you.
But I created by putting a lower entry. If I would have put the limit order here, it creates that loss already. It gave me a better entry.
Mm. So you're saying from when we first started talking about this, you would have been taken out with your stop loss, but then at the same time, you're like, okay, this is probably going to be a good entry to get back in the trade.
No. Okay.
No.
So what I did was walk through what. Okay. So here, you decide to make a trade at 667, right?
Mm-hmm.
We entered the trade. You put a 20% stop loss, which is here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is a normal trade, and this is how it normally would have played out right there. Okay. Now, knowing that currently you don't have a good entry system, you incorporate and say, well, you know what? Normally, when I decide to enter, I can see on River that I normally get a 5% pullback, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you take a 5% pullback, half of a 5% pullback is 2.5%,
Right.
which means from the current entry that we made up here, instead of that entry, if we followed the correct system, instead of entering up here and taking that loss that just happened, I should have just put the entry on a limit order at 650.
Instead of not buying in.
Right.
Gotcha.
So this trade up here was only made because that's a trade without using the system.
Ah, got you.
So this is the trade we could have avoided by simply
Mhm.
putting the limit order at 650 like we said, incorporating the pullback automatically. So if I did, instead of the first trade, I said, you know what? I'm going to incorporate a 2.5% pullback. I'm going to move my entry down to 251 or 250.
Mhm.
That's going to create a different trade. So now my trade is 650. My 2% pullback, which would be 20%, is now down to 637. So if we played that trade the way we should have, we would be in a trade right now at 650.
Mhm.
So we'd look like this. And our limit orders, let me see where we're at here, would look like this. 20% stop loss, 30% gain. It would look like this.
Mhm.
So that's what I was saying. So
Got you.
this would be the trade that we're actually in, right? We could have avoided
Mhm.
this first loss by incorporating the pullback automatically. That's what I'm saying. The game that you're
Mhm.
playing isn't about winning a trade. The game is not losing a trade. See, we could have avoided this earlier trade by incorporating a 2.5% pullback. But this is for guys who are learning how to do entries, right?
Mhm.
So our regular entry was 667, right? Now we're not really sure how good of an entry is. So based on your first trade, remember the first river trade you did the other day had a 5% pullback, right?
Mhm.
So if we cut that in half, that means from this entry here that we made earlier of 667, if we incorporated a middle ground of 2.5%, so 0 to 5 is 2.5%. That
Mhm.
means that instead of 667, we should have entered here at 650. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I set a limit order there, right? That means from that limit order at 650 or 649, the pullback on a 10x leverage would be 2%, would be about here. That creates a new stop loss, meaning that my next stop loss is now I'm in this pocket, 650 to 638. That's my trade. So the only way I can lose this trade now is if this trade falls back down to the 638,
Got you.
right? But what I did here was by adding that first 2.5% pullback from this 667 mark down here to this mark, is I've already eliminated that first loss that we took. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if I don't make that first trade, I don't have that first loss. And now I'm in the next trade, which was the already getting into a greedier entry, playing a 2% dip, right?
Mhm.
So I spared myself a loss, and now I'm in a trade where I have a higher probability of success because I've already, taken 2.5% loss on a dip, and I'm already in the dip, right? Don't I think sometimes you look at what's happening. So this was me walking you through a scenario as if you were making a trade.
Mhm.
Joey goes to make a trade. Your first decision was, okay, river looks good, 667, right? Here's the entry up here. Okay, you would enter up here. This is your entry, right? That's your entry. You know that your entries suck. So based on river, you know that you average 5% pullback, right? That makes sense?
Mhm.
So you go and get your long tool and say, okay, I'm going to enter here, but I'm going to incorporate the average pullback that I normally see. So I'm going to pull this down to 2.5%, which would be my normal pullback area. So that
Mm-hmm.
changes my entry from 667 to now 650. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So then I set a limit order for 650, which is what I walked you through, where I went over
Mm-hmm.
here, I put in 650. I then moved the slider to how much I wanted to do. Right? Remember
Yep.
that?
I'm with you.
Then I hit long. Then the limit order was set. When the limit order got set, I clicked on limit, right? And that's where my stop loss is pulled up. I set my stop loss for 20%. I set my target for 30, and then boom, that was confirmed. And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're watching it play out in real time. Were we correct to play a 2.5% pullback? Yes. There was the pullback. Did it
Mm-hmm.
hit our entry point? Yes. 650 got hit. Did it hit our stop loss point from the 650 at 638? No, because it hasn't fallen that far. So all we did there by playing the 2%, 2.5% pullback in our entry is we eliminated the first bad trade. See what I'm saying? So that
Yeah.
first trade would not have existed by implementing the system.
Gotcha.
Now, the trade changes and the pullbacks change based on you getting better on your entry. So, right now, whatever steps you would have taken to be in this entry, right? You're going to start adjusting those and getting better. So,
Mm-hmm.
as we go forward, you might not see a 2.5% pullback on River up to a 5%. You might get it down to 1% to 2%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means when you do your pullback to decide when you get your entry, if from 667, if you average a 2% pullback, then we would just simply go to a 1% pullback from the entry, and our entry would have been here instead, right? It would have
Mm-hmm.
been set here where it would have been 661, right?
So how are you calculating the percentage of the are you like hitting the top and the bottom and seeing the percentage of that where it hits repetitively, or just an all-time top bottom
No.
and that
So the very first thing we covered is I told
mm-hmm.
Lucas to go to your entry, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked him to measure the percent from your entry to the dip that happened after your entry.
Okay, gotcha.
That was 5%.
Mm-hmm.
So based on your very first river trade,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason, doesn't matter why you did an entry, doesn't matter what strategy
Mm-hmm.
you're using, it pulled back 5%,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the next time you trade river, right, because it's going to be different for each coin, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the next time you trade river, you would say to yourself, all right, the last time I traded river, there was a 5% dip.
Yeah.
I'm going to calculate 50% of that on my next entry decision so that I
Yeah,
protect
I
myself.
got that,
Yeah.
but that's assuming that I've already been in a trade, correct?
Yeah, didn't you?
That's
You
what,
did a trade the other day, right?
right. So now, therefore, like 5% is going to be the rule of law kind of thing, like that's where I'm struggling. So it's
No,
like always going to
that's
be
what I just
5%.
said. I said that will change
Uh-huh.
every time you make an entry, right? Because
Okay.
what you're
I
doing
got
is
you.
you're developing your entry strategy.
Gotcha.
So the next time you do river, it might pull back 3%. So now you have two trades. You had one that
Mm-hmm.
pulled back 5%, you had one that pulled back 3%, right?
Yeah.
What's the average between 3 and 5?
5.
4, right?
Yeah.
So now you would start doing a pullback to 4%. So you take your box here and your new entry would be 4% down, which means you would start entering at that 4% mark, which would be here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you make your next trade on River. Let's say that River goes out and you make a trade and it only goes to here and it bounces, right? You don't get in the trade because your pullback was too far, right?
Right.
That's okay. All you measure is say, well, okay, how far did it pull back? Now you go here and you go, okay, the trade pulled back to here, and now you're getting new data, right? So now you're getting a pullback to this yellow line, right? This was
Mm-hmm.
1.84%. So now you have a trade that pulled back 5, a trade that pulled back 3, a trade that pulled back 2. Right? 1.84. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So your first trade was 5, your second trade was 3, and then now let's just imaginary a trade that pulled back 2. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're like, all right, now I have a 2% pullback, a 3%, and a 5. You're going to go between the 2 and the 5, right? Which is about 2.5. So you're going to pull back, let's say the next time you put an entry, you're going to put an entry 3% down because now you're starting to like get a little closer. So now you're going to put your entry point here at 649. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Let's
As
say
a
that
yeah.
yeah, so let's say the next trade you get into pulls back and because you're working on your entry, so it's like you're changing things up. The next time it pulls back, you're going here and it doesn't hit the 3%, it goes up to here, right? And then it runs off. Right? So now you got another trade and you measure it out again. You say, okay, it pulled back from where my original ideal entry was. It pulled back 2.5%, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to realize that you're getting an average of 2.5, 3%. You're no longer getting 4 or 5s, right? Because now you have
Gotcha.
3 trades that pulled back 3%,
Mm-hmm.
2%, 2%, 2.5, right? So now you have an average where you're pulling back 2%, 2.5, and 3%, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
means you would now make the decision to say, okay, I'm seeing an average of 2% on my pullback. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then the next time you decide that you're going to enter river for whatever reason, right? Whatever your steps are, you're going to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to enter river here at 680. I'm going to add a 2% pullback from 680, 681, right? Which would mean
Mm-hmm.
my entry would be here at 6. So you see how it says 681 up here?
Yeah.
And I put my little tool and I pull it back and I drag it till it says 2%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means at that level I would be at 667.7. You see what I'm saying?
Which is your buy-in
Right, which is my buy-in incorporating a 2% pullback, which is the
from the
average
data.
pullback that I'm seeing when I make a decision to enter.
Gotcha.
Remember, we're not talking about your entry decision yet. We're just talking about whenever you decide that you're going to enter, you take a 2% pullback and that's your limit order. You're incorporating a 2% pullback to protect your money.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Regardless of what it is, I'm going back 2% is what you're saying.
Right.
You're
Now
going to
let's say
calculate.
that
Well, not 2%, but whatever
yeah,
that percentage.
yeah, because you're not trying to get into a trade. You're trying to get into the best trade.
Gotcha.
Okay. So now once you do this repetitively, let's say the next 4 or 5 trades, you put a 2% pullback. And you notice that it averagely pulls back here, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
average that it's pulling back out of 10 trades or 5 trades is 1%, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
some of the 2% trades got hit, right? So let's say 2 out of 10 hit, and the other 8 pulled back to 1% and then ran up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you say, okay, I'm getting better at my entries here because I'm not getting those big ass pullbacks, right? But I am averaging a 1% pullback, right? So now what I'm going to do is my average pullback used to be 2, and that's where I used to set my orders at. So now I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, okay, if my other average was 2% and my new average is 1%, I'm going to take the middle ground, which is what? 1.5%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I decide that you decide that you're going to do River, right? And River's at, let's say, $6.86, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go, okay, here's my entry point. I'm going to add a 1.5% pullback because that's my normal, I'm protecting my entry, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now, instead of 686, with the pullback in here, my limit order would be 676. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now what happens is the on the other side, when you were doing 2%, you were getting 2 out of 10 trades. Now by pulling back here, you might get 4 out of 10, right?
Gotcha.
Now the
Mm-hmm.
other 6 you're not going to get into because they don't pull back far enough. And what happens is they get into a position where they pull back almost to it and then they take off, right? You're not worried about those trades, okay? Because that would be moving in the wrong direction. That would be meaning that you're trying to get into more trades. We don't want to get into more trades. We want to get into the best trades. We want to limit the risk of loss. So now you find a happy ground where 10 times you set up a trade and only 4 of them got hit, right? Now, how this makes sense is very simple. The 6 trades that you didn't get into, right? More than likely, they ran up, did whatever they were going to do, right? But what you've
Mm-hmm.
done here is you've created where the 4 trades that pulled back to that lower level, that 1.5%. Remember, you're doing a 20x, a 10x leverage. When it pulls back 1.5%, that's 15% of a pullback, a negative pullback that you've already accounted for. You eliminated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in reality, on those other trades that you would have got into at 6681 that pulled back that 1.5%, most of those are probably going to pull back past your stop loss and would have been losses. So the 6 trades that you didn't get into because they didn't hit your pullback far enough, right? Out of those 6 trades, 3 or 4 of them probably would have pulled back and stop loss you out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So by eliminating the losses and only taking the best entries, you're
Mm-hmm.
only winning. So when you go through 10 trades and you don't have 6 bad ones, you only have 4 good ones, you've won. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got it now. Like
Okay.
I was just trying to figure out like if there's anything like I need to write down to calculate kind of thing. But this is all just based on doing it live. Like I have to be, like you say, get the data. And then the more data I get, that's how I got you now. Then I adjust it based on.
Now here's the part you're going to understand because I think this is the part that's missing for you. How do
Mm-hmm.
I get my data, right? Well, here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. How do you enter, right? So the entry is very simple. If you're doing a volume trade, right? It goes like
Mm-hmm.
this. On River, you're going to have, just like how Lucas is going to cover Fartcoin and all the things he's going over, he's going to
Mm-hmm.
cover his entry plan on the 10-minute, the 30-minute, and the 45. Okay? So
Mm-hmm.
how it goes is this. In order for us to do a long, right, we don't need any other indicator except for the moon indicator right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the moon indicator is very simple. It's a very simple indicator. And all we're looking for is volume above certain levels, right? So how Lucas has, the moon indicator right here. So if you look here, So if the trade I'm doing is very simple, I go to a 10-minute time frame, or let's say, that. And all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to look for when river breaks the 10 threshold, right? So we have a
Mm-hmm.
scenario here where river breaks the 10 threshold, right? So I'm going to put a red arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now what I'm looking for is the next green moon option, right? Which is here. So that's where I would say I'm going to do an entry, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next time that happens is here. So river breaks the 10 threshold here, right? And then all I'm going to wait for that to do is come back down, right? And on the next green moon, which is here, I would have my entry, right? So just so you kind of understand. So all it is that the 10 breaks the 10 threshold line. It then goes back to a blue moon and we enter on the next green moon. Okay? Which is
Mm-hmm.
this green arrow here, right? So you see how that green arrow is on the green moon right here?
Yeah.
Okay. It then breaks the 10 threshold here, right? And the reason why I'm using a red arrow is because we have to, this is not the entry, we have to get the pullback.
Right. So this is, you're saying this is all data collection so far before we're even going to get in.
Right. So what we're waiting for, the entry comes on the next green moon. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So now let's go to the chart. So let's say we'll do three. I'll do three so we have an odd number so we can get percentages. So here we go again. River breaks the 10 threshold right here, right? I can't enter this long until I get a green moon on river somewhere that's coming. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go to the chart and basically look at these three trades that now that we have, this is your entry system. Okay. So this is how you would be doing a trade. So let's go here and say, okay, here's my red. All I'm going to do here is put the green arrow when there's a green moon. Okay. So there's
Mm-hmm.
my first green moon there. Here's my second green moon here. And currently I don't have a green moon, but I'm waiting for it somewhere here, right? So all I do here is I just make sure that my indicators are lined up where they have their moon set up right there. Perfect. This is right here. Okay. So now if I look at the chart, right, I take a look and I say, okay, here's my first situation. The green moon went off here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a price. I'm going to put the price here and say that that was 6467. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
I know based off my trades, I need a 2.5% pullback, right? So I'm going to incorporate a 2.5% because last time I made a trade, it went back 5%, right? So
Right.
I'm going to put the 2% pullback, and that means that my trade is going to be at that level there, okay? I'm going to do the same thing over here. And this green arrow goes to here. I put in my entry, and then I need to measure out a 2.5% pullback from that entry, because that's currently what I'm doing, which means my entry would be here. And then I don't have my green moon yet here, right? Because it hasn't popped up. So I can't estimate this third move here because I don't have a green moon, right? So let's
Mm-hmm.
go over here and we'll just go back one set, right? Which is over here. So now if I go back here, I'm looking for the same scenario. What do I look for? I need the 10 line to be broken, which happened here. Okay. And then make that red. And then my green arrow would be the next green moon, which would be here. And that would be my green arrow. So now I'm just going to line up, get my third green arrow here so I have data I can kind of like go through. So these are 3 moves. That has happened, right? So now this green moon goes here and it creates an entry point here. And now let's go to the 1 minute and take a look at our entries, right? All right, so this is going to go here. Perfect. A little better here. All right, there we go. All right, let me get rid of these. I don't need any of these. Okay. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Okay. Here we go. All right. Let's just turn. There we go. Okay. Clean it up a little bit. All right. I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need that. Okay. All right. So now let me go to the 1 minute. Okay. So now I can dig in and just kind of like the 1 minute is going to be where you're looking to get your entry. So this would be here as far as the 10 minute, which is about the same scenario. We do a 2.5% pullback from there. That just means that this entry would be here, right? And that's just that. That's just our 2.5% pullback that we're incorporating right out the gate, just to protect our entry. So I'm gonna drag this over here. Here's your other green moon. Let's see where this entry is. That would be somewhere in this section here. Let's do a 2.5% pullback, which means my entry would be there. And then we get the last one, which is over here. Boom, boom. Okay. So here's my entry, pops off here. I do a 2.5% pullback, which means my entry would be here, right? Okay, so now this is just, it's not the entry for River, but it's how you create an entry, right? So now every time there's that green moon, right, I know that there's a long position. And if I go here and I get a 2.5% pullback, I don't know why that disappeared, but it would be about here, which means my entry would be there. Perfect. Okay. Let me get rid of that. Okay. So what happens here is this. I can look and say, okay, if this is what I'm doing here, and let's say this first green 10-minute green moon hits, right? So remember, the entry is the 10 threshold breaks on the 10-minute line, right? I incorporate a entry point here based on the 10-minute, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I then put a 2.5% pullback, which means I'm incorporating a safety entry from 657 down to 664, right? So it has to pull back there, and then from here it needs to run and go up from that section. It needs to go up 1.5% for me to get profitable. See? So the first trade that I would have done, I don't get my entry because it doesn't pull back. Does that make sense?
You're protecting the loss or whatever.
Yeah. I'm not worried about that. The moon, the 10 line broke the threshold.
Right.
It triggers an entry on the next 10-minute green moon. Okay? This 657 represents the 10-minute green moon.
Okay.
I incorporate at that time a 2.5% pullback to protect my entry down to a 640. Okay?
Gotcha.
Now, this trade goes, and what happens, it doesn't pull back, it just runs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't get this trade because at that time it never pulled back. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this trade is out there. It's a limit order. It didn't hit. The trade ran. It did what it was supposed to do, but I don't get an entry on there and I move on, right? So at the end of that, I end up closing out that trade because there's a big run, and then that's pretty much over. Now I
I
close
was
out
going to
that.
say that would kill your parameter for percentage in the move too, right?
Well, yeah. Well, because right now I didn't get a pullback, right? Right, exactly.
Right. I
So
got you.
yeah, so if you measure the pullback, right, and I go here and I go, okay, before it ran, how far did it pull back, right? And I go
Mm-hmm.
here and I measure it, and I zoom in, whatever I need to do. I realize that from my entry point, the low that it came was only 0.41%, right?
Right.
So now that goes into the data. And I say, okay, so far, the system that I'm using here
Mm-hmm.
this is what it showed me it's doing, right? So let me see, where's my text? So then you just put here that you got a 0.5% pullback. Now you move on. So now we go to the
Gotcha.
next trade. And that's basically the 10-minute breaks the threshold. Here we go again, right? Which happens here. The entry would be at 647. We incorporate the 2.5% pullback from that level because we're protecting the entry right now because we're learning a strategy. So that means that the entry would be here at this level here. Now this entry doesn't trigger here and it goes on that push run here, right? We see the upside that it makes. So this trade becomes a trade where we can look at as well and say, oh, we didn't get this trade either because it doesn't pull back. But then we measure, like you said, we get our measurement from our entry point and we see how far it pulled back before it actually went to the other direction. And we can see that it pulled back 0.6. So now we put here and go 0.6% pullback, right? So now we're starting to get data, right? We haven't made any trades, right? And the other thing that I
Mm-hmm.
want to do here is from the same point, not only measure the downside, right, but measure the up. So this trade produced a 0.6% pullback, right? But on the other hand, it created a long position that went 1.29%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can put in here, you got a 1.3%, or go lower, go 1.2%, right? And a 0.6. So now you know that the high was 1.2, the low was 0.6, right? Just like over here on this trade, if we measure this one out here, our height is 9%, right? So then we would just take this, delete, click on this, settings. So now we have a 9% long and a 0.5% pullback, right? Now we move on. So there's a 9%, 0.5. Here's a 1.2%, 0.6, right? Now we have this trade here. Same scenario. Here's our 2% pullback from our entry point. We measure this out. We say, okay, based on this entry point, it pulls back to this level here, which is 0.6. When it does push, it pushes up to a 2.8. So now we take our text, we put it here, 2.8% slash 0.6, right? And now we move on, right? So now you can see how you have data here. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now we have 3 trades, right?
Mhm.
based on these three trades. We have one that went 9%. We had one that went 1.2. We had one that went 2.8. But the common theme here is it pulls back 0.6, right? 0.5, 0.6, 0.6. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So that is a pretty good entry. Because if you're doing a 10x leverage, right, this pullback is literally 6%. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So now, as you continue to do this, you're basically putting trades in. You're getting your entry point. Now you say, okay, let me get this. Let me work on this trade here and see like how this really came about. What's my thing? I go to a 2 minute here, and bring your moon indicator. The only indicator you really want to work with here is going to be your moon indicator. What happens on the moon indicator that's going to make you make these trades, right? And this is basically, you already know the first thing is when you get that next 10-minute moon, right? And you know
Mhm.
that once you get that next 10-minute moon and you get an entry, you're getting an average of 0.6% pullback, right? So what you
Right.
would do here is you would simply say, okay, I got my entry, everything's happening. I go here and I know that the entry is going to be 665, right? So whatever the current price is at that time, just click on it, have a simple pullback that is like a zero point 0.2, okay?
Mhm.
And then just grab that price. If you can see it right here. If you move your mouse up, that would be 6.645, right? 6.645. So the true entry here for where I'm going to enter here is at the bottom of this section here. It's going to be 6.645, somewhere
Gotcha.
around there, right? And all I'm doing here is I'm incorporating 50% of the average pullback of zero point 0.6, which would be a 0.3. So once that moon indicator hits and everything says buy, whatever the price is when it tells me to buy, I incorporate that half of the original pullback, which is zero point 0.6, which I do as 0.3, which would have put
Mhm.
it here as my entry. See?
Mhm.
And that's it. So I would set my limit order there, 20% stop loss, 30% gains.
Hmm.
Now, the thing is about this particular moment is that for River, you need, if you're doing a 10x leverage, that means you need an average of 3%, right? Right now,
Mhm.
when you're looking at these trades, we had a trade that did 9%, but that's not the average long right now, right? The average long is 1.8, 2.8, right? So we're getting
Mhm.
about a 1.5% move, which means in order to get the target that we want, right, or hit the the long that we want to do, and this actually pulls up in here, but to get the long that we want, our leverage would have to be like 20%, right? Because that a 20% would be you would need a 1.5% move to get 30%. That makes sense?
Yep.
Now you have to then go against your pullback and say, okay, well, if I'm doing a 20x leverage, that means a zero point 0.6 would be a 12% pullback. See what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I'm right on the cusp of my 20x pullback. Now I'm going for, you see what I'm saying? Now you is like, does that trade fit the criteria? Could it be possible? Right? So if I get my good entry, will I hit my stop loss? Well, if it pulls back 0.6, that's about 12% on the pullback, gives you a little bit of room. Maybe you'll put 15, maybe you put 18, right? Maybe you'll move your stop loss and say, okay, I'm going to do a 22% stop loss just because this is a tight ass coin, right? 23, right? Now you're making the decision here to say, okay, the risk versus reward, right? You don't want to lose more than you could possibly win. We're going for a 30% win. So the only thing you could do here is, match that loss and do like 25% stop loss. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now you're at the point where if you make this trade consistently, you will then get the data on how many times or how many times you stop loss out and how many times you go forward, right? And on your winning trades, you go ahead and say, okay, well, what's my, I'm hitting these winning trades. Now take a look at your losses. How many of those trades, how far did they pull back, right? Did they barely hit 25% stop loss? Had you put your stop loss at 30, would you have won 50% more of those, right? And then you start adjusting from there because now you have data. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
But that's how you start because what you were working on is the entry here, right? Now you realize when we go back to the original trade that we're doing here, this entire trade that we are in, that we got into here, we should have never been in this trade because the reality is we're still waiting on the 10-minute green moon. Because we broke the 10 threshold, right? Right here, we broke the 10 threshold. Now we need a green moon. When that green moon shows up, then we know at that point we have a 0.6% pullback, which we incorporate by doing a 0.3% limit order from that point. And our normal target is 1.5%, so my leverage needs to be 20. Which then I adjust here and I go to 20x leverage and I set it there because now I know what I'm trading. I'm doing a 25% stop loss, right? 20% leverage, 30% target, 25% stop loss. And now every time I make that trade, I just keep track of how much it pulled back. Is it staying in those ranges, right?
Yeah.
But now you've created an entry. And that's how easy it is to create an entry on River.
Makes sense.
River's entry is basically this. The 10-minute breaks the 10 threshold. You wait for the next 10-minute green moon. When you get the 10-minute green moon, whatever the price is, you measure out a 0.3% pullback. You make that your limit order. You then incorporate a 25% stop loss, a 30% target, 20x leverage. And you track the data. And then once you have the data and you bring me the data, I will show you how to mathematically improve your odds.
Gotcha.
Now, if you want to be extra cautious there, you when you get your green moon and you have your pullback, just set the limit order at 0.5. Don't cut it in half. Do a 0.5 pullback. Now you're almost maximizing the average pullback. So if you're maximizing the average pullback, what's that going to do for your gains?
Increase them.
Increase them. What if it, and then when it does pull back to that average level, if it pulls back even slightly more, it also gives you protection of that pullback. So now you're increasing your stop loss by double by getting a better entry. So now those trades that you might have lost because it hit 25% stop loss, now it's not getting there because by increasing instead of 0.3 going to 0.5, you've almost doubled the pullback. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now the 3 or 4 trades that you would have lost on little bitty moves, you've now said, oh, shit, I've got an even better pullback. I survived those. So if I was doing River right now, that's my entry. 10-minute threshold broke. Next 10-minute green moon. From there, once I get a 10-minute green moon, I go to the current price and I do a 0.5% pullback. And I set a limit order for a 20x large, 30% target, 25% stop loss. And that's the trade I do. And we'll put that one out there because now we can test it because we just went through the process of developing it, right?
That's true.
Right. So I'm gonna put this video together right here just for an entry point for River. So River, the testing that we're gonna do is very simple. We're going to wait for the 10 line to break on the volume. Once it breaks on the volume, right, we then wait for the next 10-minute green moon. Once we get a 10-minute green moon, we're going to go to the 1 minute mark. On the 1 minute mark, whatever the current price is, right now the current price is $6.50. If we received a green moon at this price, we would simply go to our tool on the left. We'd get our long position tool, and we would just go from the current price of $6.50 or whatever it is right now, and we would drag down 0.5, right? Anywhere from there, anything above 0.5, 0.5%. And then we would just mark that and say, okay, what price is that? That's $64.65. So the current price is $65.51. The 0.5% pullback is $646.5. Now that we have the price of $646.5, which is incorporating a 0.5% pullback, we would just go to our limit order, 6456. We'd put that limit order as our entry. Then we would put our isolated, we'd do a 20x leverage. We would have our limit order pullback set up, and then we would do our trade. And then we would set that order. So from the current price, our limit order is 0.5% to 0.6% down, meaning it has to come down that level to grab our limit order. Our limit order is a 20x leverage, a 30% target with a 25% stop loss. And that's the trade for River. So now when we execute this trade, we collect data, or everyone collects data on the trade when they made it, right? And the data that they need is this. It's okay if they got stop lossed out. They need to measure what was the entire percent pullback. Was it a 0.6, 0.8, 1% pullback? Whatever it is, we need to know how much it pulled back. And then from the entry price that we measured out, which is 6465, we then measure how high did it go. It pulled back 1% and it went up from the entry price, not from the pullback, from the entry price of 6465. It went back 1% and it went up 2%. Now we know that had we not get stop lossed, we would have hit our 2% or 1.5% target to the up. Because remember, we're doing a 20x moving to 30% target, which means we need a 1% move would be 20, a 0.5% move would be 10. So we need a 1.5% move to hit a 30% target. So as long as the trade did more than a 1.5% move, then we know that we would have hit our target. The other thing is we're averaging to see what the pullback is so that we can understand how far we need to reset our limit order to protect ourselves from that pullback. And then once we have that average down, then we will lock in the perfect entry for River. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.